History and evolution of IoT. That means how the Internet of Things evolved and what was its history. Now, basically, IoT or Internet of Things is an ecosystem of connected devices that exchange data over a wired or wireless network, right? When I say ecosystem, that means a system which is dependent upon each other, a system in which components are dependent upon each other. Like we have an ecosystem wherein humans are dependent upon animals, further dependence upon insects, flora, fauna. So every element of this earth, every life that is on this earth is dependent upon each other. So hence it makes an ecosystem. Similarly, in Internet of Things, it is a complete ecosystem wherein one device is dependent upon other device. The devices are dependent upon sensors are dependent upon actuators are dependent upon coordinators. Then one device is dependent upon the other device, then they are dependent upon the artificial intelligence algorithms. So it is a complete ecosystem wherein there is an interdependence among all the components. One cannot exist without the other. So hence we call it an ecosystem of connected devices, because one device, unless it is not connected to the rest of the devices, would not serve any purpose, right? Now these devices, the connected devices that I'm talking of, these devices could be your smartphones, they could be your laptops, or they could be your smart electric appliances, smart office equipments, or any device which has sensors in it. That means any device having a sensor in it is a part of the ecosystem of the Internet of Things, right? So it could be anything ranging from the smartphones, laptops to the electrical appliances or office equipments that we have. Only condition is that if they have sensors in it, right? Now data generated by these devices is shared with servers which are located on cloud, right? So whatever data these devices collect and generate through the sensors. Now sensors sense a physical stimuli. So the moment a physical stimuli is sensed, the data is generated, right? So whatever data is generated by these devices, now these devices have sensors embedded in them. So whatever data is generated by these devices through the sensors which are embedded in them is shared with servers, because we know collectively all the data would be shared or stored where? In a server, right? And in future this data from the server would be accessed for analysis or for data analytics. So these servers are located in cloud. Now in case of IoT, the data is located in cloud. Basically in cloud means on the internet. That means the organizations do not have to explicitly buy any servers and pay for them. Now one disadvantage here of buying on-premise servers is that first of all they are expensive. Now the organization which exclusively buys that server has to pay the entire cost for that server. Further, if the organization does not have enough data to fit in the capacity of the server, then the storage gets wasted. So on the go or on the internet storage provides you the convenience of storing as much data as you want. There is no memory wastage, right? So even if you have little data, you can store it in the cloud without worrying for the wastage of memory. Plus you do not have to pay anything for exclusively for that server, because that server is not owned exclusively by any particular organization. That can be shared by each and all, right? So once that data which is collected by this generated and collected by the sensors which are embedded in the devices is stored in the servers which are located on cloud, it is processed, right? That processing of that data takes place, which is a part of data analytics. When we study big data analytics, the data which is generated and collected is processed basically by the data scientists. So when this data is processed, why do we process the data? To gain insights, to have knowledge, to have an idea, to have get an knowledge or insight of the patterns. Like for example, the weather forecast system, if you take it, the data gets collected in the servers, and then the data scientists process the data to gain insight. Okay, what would be the weather condition in coming 3-4 days, or what would be the weather condition tomorrow? So this is what, this is gaining insight through the data which is located in the servers, which was initially generated and then collected. So the data which is generated and collected is the raw data, right? So to gain insight from data, you need to process it. And who does the processing? During big data analytics, processing is done by the data scientists. So this data which is stored in the servers is processed to gain insights. And then what does it help in? It help in taking your decisions, right? Like the weather forecast department gains insight from the data that is stored, and then it generates, and then it gives you your prediction for the weather for the coming days. So you can make decisions. Okay, tomorrow it will be heavy rainfall, day after tomorrow it will be slight drizzling, or tomorrow it will be a sunny weather. So how do you gain knowledge? Because of the data which was processed after being collected. So this is how it works. So the IoT ecosystem can be established not only within small areas like our homes or offices, but over large areas like gated communities, university campuses, and cities. So basically this IoT ecosystem can exist anywhere irrespective of the geographical area. It can exist in our homes, it can exist in our offices, it can exist over large areas like you have wherein you have gated communities with n number of houses, or in a big university campus, or even in cities. Now these smart cities which we are hearing nowadays, the concept of smart city comes from the idea of IoT, right? Internet of Things, wherein each and everything is smart, like the wearables that you wear. If I talk of the IoT devices at homes, these smart wearables that you're wearing, for example, your smart watches, which keep a track of how many miles you have covered, they are an example of an IoT device, right? The weather forecasting system, which forecasts the weather in advance, that is an example of your that uses IoT enabled devices to do that. So you have a wide range of IoT applications starting from your homes, that means from your smart wearables, which is your fitness watch, to gated communities or big organizations wherein they are forecasting the weather with the help of those devices. It is the sensors which are doing that, right? So they have a wide range of applications. Now if I talk of the history of IoT, the first of all, IoT means Internet of Things, right? So internet is definitely involved with these things. These things are connected through a network which is known as your internet. So how did internet start? So ARPANET, ARPANET, this is called ARPANET, and the full form of ARPANET is American Research Project Agency Network. Now this was the first connected network. Before internet came, the first connected network means a network which connected devices, was ARPANET, right? So in a way you can say that it was the granddad of internet as we know it today. So the history of IoT starts with ARPANET, right? So internet did not exist before the existence of ARPANET. So in 1982, a graduate student in Mellon's University's computer science department, whose name was David Nichols. Now he wanted to know if the department's Coke vending machine had cold soda bottles or not, right? His mere intention was to find out if the Coke vending machine in his department has the cold soda bottles or not. So he was tired of going to the machine only to find there was no cold bottle available, right? Every time he went to the machine to have some chilled Coke, he found that there was no cold soda bottle available there. And the vending machine was quite some distance from his classroom. So every time walking all that way from his classroom to the vending machine just to find out if it has chilled Coke or not, he wanted to have information beforehand, right? You can call he was lazy enough. He did not want to walk that much just to find if the vending machine has chilled Coke or not. So beforehand, he wanted to find if there is cold soda in that vending machine or not. This was the sole intent. Now, he was helped in this endeavor by Mike Kazar and Ivor Durham, two fellow students. Now, two of his friends named Mike Kazar and Ivor Durham, and John Zarney, a research engineer who was a research engineer at the university. Now, the code they wrote a kind of algorithm or a code that would check if Coke was available in the vending machine, and if yes, whether it was cold or not. So they wrote a code or an algorithm with the help of which they could first of all check, right? They could first of all check that if the vending machine had Coke. If no, then there was no point of checking further. But if yes, then they would further check if it was cold or not. So anyone on the university ARPANET could monitor the status of Coke vending machine. Now, for this they used ARPANET, the network which was ARPANET, the American Research Project Agency network. They used this particular network to right, and this information they shared on this network. So with the help of this, not just them but everyone in the university through ARPANET or through this connected network could find out that what was the status of the Coke vending machine, whether the vending machine had Coke, and if it had Coke, then whether it was chilled or not, right? Now in 1989, Tim Berners-Lee proposed the framework of World Wide Web. ARPANET was good enough, but it was a small network, right? So in 1989, a person named as Tim Berners-Lee proposed the framework of WWW, what you call today, that is the World Wide Web, and this laid the foundation of internet. Then in 1990, John Romke developed a toaster that could be turned on and off over the internet, right? He developed a toaster and you could turn it on and off over the internet. It was a toaster which was wired to the computer, as there was no Wi-Fi then, right? So since we did not have any short range networks or at that point of time, so the toaster was directly connected to the computer, right? And with the help of the computer, that person could turn the toaster on and off. Now this toaster is considered to be the first IoT device. Now this is what IoT devices are. They can work with the help of internet. So this was the first IoT device, that is the toaster, which was developed by John Romke, which could be turned on and off using the computer because it was wired to the computer. So the first thing that began Internet of Things. This is the first thing that began Internet of Things. Now before this, internet was limited to computers only. Now next milestone in development of IoT came in 1991 when Kevin Ashton, who is the current executive director of the Auto ID Labs, coined the term Internet of Things. So by that time this concept had arrived, but the term Internet of Things had not yet been coined. So Kevin Ashton, who was the first person who actually coined the term Internet of Things. So it was the title of a presentation he made at Procter & Gamble, where he was working at that point of time, about linking RFID in Procter & Gamble's supply chain to the internet. So while making his presentation, he came up with this term, with this title. While he was thinking the title for his presentation, he thought of this term, Internet of Things. And that's how the term Internet of Things came into existence. Alright. Now the term IoT began to be used in mainstream publications like The Guardian and Scientific American by the 2003 and 2004. So it was quite late though, but by the time 2003 and 2004, the term IoT was started being used in mainstream publications, right? Then in March 2008, the first IoT conference was held in Zurich. So remember, the first conference ever on IoT was held in March 2008, which was held in Zurich, of course, which is in Switzerland. So it brought together researchers and practitioners from both academia and industry to facilitate sharing of knowledge. In that conference, both the researchers who were academicians basically, and practitioners who were working in industries, they came together so that they could facilitate sharing of knowledge. They could share their knowledge. Researchers could share the research knowledge, and the practitioners could share their practical knowledge. And in the same year, the US National Intelligence Council, so the US National Intelligence Council included the Internet of Things as one of the 6 disruptive civil technologies. So the Internet of Things was added or included in the 6 disruptive civil technologies by the US National Intelligence Council. That means in 2008, right? Now, in its 2011 white paper, Cisco Internet Business Solutions Group, which is CIBSG, so basically Cisco said that Internet of Things can truly be said to be born between 2008 and 2009, because it was actually first in 2008 that a conference for IoT was held, and then it was also included by US National Intelligence Council in the same year in the list of 6 disruptive civil technologies. So Cisco said that Internet of Things can be said to be born between 2008 and 2009, when the number of things connected to the internet exceeded the number of people connected to it, right? So the more than the number of people who were connected to internet, the number of things were connected to internet. So we could truly say that, okay, during these years, that is between 2008 to 2009, your Internet of Things was born. So the Cisco Internet Business Solution Group calculated that the things to people ratio grew from approximately 0.8 in 2003 to 1.84 in 2010. Now, together with the white paper by Cisco released many educational materials on the topic and started marketing initiatives to attract clients looking to adopt IoT, right? So it started publishing some educational materials so people could study them, gain insight, and then they could be attracted and take some initiatives to adopt IoT. Now, IBM and Ericsson joined the race soon after Cisco. In 2013, IDC released a report that predicted IoT market to grow by 7.9% and reach USD 8.9 trillion by 2020. Now we are already in 2022. So this was about the history and evolution of IoT.